Welcome back to Midnight Signal AI. It is May 19th, 2026, and we have a packed run tonight. New model releases from Alibaba and Giotto.ai, OpenAI pushing deeper into consumer finance and coding workflows, fresh research on AI control, and the latest courtroom fallout from the OpenAI versus Elon Musk fight.
A very model-heavy day, and not just in the bigger benchmark number sense. A lot of these stories are really about where AI is allowed to run, who it serves, and how much control organizations want over it.
Let's start with Startup Fortune, which says Alibaba's Qwen team is pushing ahead with the Qwen 3.7 release, even as export control headwinds keep shaping the hardware and deployment picture around them. The key point here is that the model roadmap is still moving forward despite the geopolitical pressure.
That matters because the AI race is no longer just about model quality. It's also about supply chains, access to chips, and whether teams can keep iterating when the environment around them gets tighter. If Qwen keeps shipping, it signals resilience in the Chinese open model ecosystem.
And from a product standpoint, Qwen has become one of the names people watch closely whenever open weight competition comes up. Even without getting lost in the technical weeds, a new release like this can influence enterprise adoption, developer tooling, and the broader pace at which open models catch up to frontier systems.
It also puts pressure on rivals to keep their own release cadence sharp. In AI, momentum is a feature. If your model family looks active and improving, developers assume the ecosystem around it is alive too.
Switching gears, TradingView reports that Giotto.ai has launched what it calls portable AI for enterprises, with advanced reasoning that can move from the cloud to a workstation. This is a different angle on the same trend, not just smarter models, but models that can live where companies actually want them to live.
That portability piece is important. A lot of enterprises like the idea of cloud AI until they hit latency, privacy, cost, or compliance issues. If a system can shift between cloud and local hardware, it gives IT teams more control over deployment.
Exactly. And the phrase advanced reasoning is doing a lot of work here because buyers are increasingly asking for systems that can do more than just generate text. They want tools that can support analysis, planning, and decision workflows without forcing everything into a single hosted setup.
The bigger takeaway is that enterprise AI is fragmenting into use case-specific infrastructure. Some teams want maximum convenience, others want maximum control. The winners are going to be the vendors that can make both camps feel like they're getting a serious product.
Now to OpenAI, where H2S Media says ChatGPT can now connect to your bank account through a personal finance preview in the US. That is a major shift because it moves ChatGPT from a general assistant into something much closer to a financial operations layer for consumers.
And that immediately raises the stakes. Finance is one of the most sensitive categories in consumer tech. The upside is obvious: easier budgeting, account-aware advice, and less manual switching between apps. But the trust bar is much higher than for ordinary chat features.
Right, and the product question is no longer just can it answer well. It becomes can users safely let it see their accounts, and do they understand what it is doing with that access? That's where UX, permissions, and guardrails matter as much as model capability.
It also hints at where assistant products may be headed overall, less like a blank chat box, more like a permissioned operator that can interact with real services. That's powerful, but it's also the kind of feature that can go wrong fast if the safeguards are weak.
Staying with OpenAI, Qazinform reports that the company has launched a mobile version of its Codex tool. That's a straightforward but meaningful expansion because it puts coding assistance into a format people can use away from a desktop workflow.
Mobile coding sounds niche at first, but it really is about workflow continuity. Developers don't always need to write an entire feature on a phone. Sometimes they need to review, triage, inspect a bug, or keep momentum while they're away from their main machine.
And that's where OpenAI keeps trying to widen the surface area of its tools. If Codex can live on mobile, it becomes less of a specialized side utility and more of a companion across the day. That could matter a lot for teams already using it in their software pipeline.
It also shows how AI coding tools are moving from novelty to infrastructure. The competition isn't just who can generate code, but who can fit into the developer's actual rhythm without adding friction.
On a related note, arXiv has a new paper called Ensemble Monitoring for AI Control. Diverse signals outweigh more compute. The big idea is that combining multiple monitors can improve detection of misaligned agent actions, and the authors built 12 GPT 4.1 mini monitors to test the approach.
This is a very important safety result because it pushes back on the assumption that one bigger monitor is always the answer. In agentic systems, reliability is often about redundancy and diversity, not just raw model size.
Exactly. If you're trying to supervise autonomous behavior at scale, human review doesn't scale forever. So research that improves automated monitoring is one of the most practical safety directions out there, especially as agents take on more real tasks.
And the phrase diverse signals is the key. Different monitors can catch different failure modes. That's a systems engineering lesson as much as an AI lesson. Robustness often comes from overlap, not from a single perfect component.
Another arXiv paper worth flagging is Can We Trust AI-Inferred User States? It looks at whether LLMs can reliably classify user states in operational settings, and the answer is basically you should be very careful about assuming those scores are stable or interpretable.
That's a big deal because a lot of products quietly lean on inferred emotion, intent, or engagement signals. If the measurement itself is shaky, then every downstream decision built on top of it gets shakier too.
Right, and this is one of those papers that feels less flashy than a model launch, but may end up being more consequential for product teams. If you're going to personalize experiences or make decisions based on inferred user state, you need evidence that the metric actually means what you think it means.
It's a reminder that not every AI capability is automatically a reliable instrument. Sometimes the smartest move is asking whether the signal is real before you automate around it.
Let's talk about another research angle. arXiv also has How to Train Your Advisor, steering Black-Box LLMs with advisor models. The idea is to train small, open-weight models that generate dynamic advice for black-box frontier models, and the reported gains are sizable in the tasks the paper tested.
This is clever because it works around a common limitation. Many teams can use frontier models, but they can't change the weights. So instead of trying to crack open the black box, you add a layer that helps guide it more effectively.
And strategically, that could be huge for enterprises. It suggests a future where customization is not just prompt engineering versus fine-tuning. There may be a middle layer of smaller models that specialize in steering, policy, and task-specific advice.
That would fit the broader market pretty well. A lot of companies want the power of frontier models without giving up control. Advisor-style systems could become the practical compromise.
Now to the legal and business side. StartupHub.ai reports that Elon Musk lost his bid to overhaul OpenAI. That's the latest turn in a long-running feud that has become one of the defining corporate battles in AI.
And the significance goes beyond personalities. Court outcomes like this can shape how much freedom OpenAI has to structure itself, raise money, and keep moving on product and infrastructure plans. Legal clarity can be a business accelerator.
Business Insider adds that Musk says he will appeal the verdict and argues that Sam Altman enriched himself. So this is not over, but the immediate momentum appears to be with OpenAI, at least for now.
That matters because the public narrative around OpenAI has always been tied to governance questions. When the legal pressure eases, it can change investor confidence, partner confidence, and the company's ability to focus on shipping instead of defending itself.
The New York Times says Musk lost a $150 billion suit against OpenAI and Sam Altman, while Diario.as and Qwen 4 both describe the court ruling as a win for OpenAI. Fast Company goes a step further and says the courtroom win clears a major obstacle to an IPO.
That IPO angle is the real business headline. If OpenAI ever decides to go public, legal uncertainty is exactly the kind of thing that can complicate the roadshow story. A cleaner court position makes the company look more stable to markets.
So the broader picture is that OpenAI is still in expansion mode on products, while also getting more room to think about capital markets. Those are not separate stories. They feed each other.
And the contrast with the Musk side is pretty stark. One side is trying to keep scaling products and infrastructure, while the other is still fighting the governance battle in court and in public. That shapes the whole AI industry conversation.
That is our signal for tonight. We had new model releases, enterprise portability, OpenAI moving into finance and mobile coding, safety research on monitoring and user state inference, and a major legal chapter in the OpenAI versus Musk saga.
The common thread is control. Control over models, over deployment, over user data, and over the companies building all of this. That is where a lot of the real competition is happening now, even when the headlines look like simple product launches.
We will keep tracking it as it develops. This has been your Midnight Signal. See you in 24 hours.